Greetings, Taekwondo family, and welcome to Miami Minutes, the show that is here to see you through. We're here to see you through the hard times. And, you know, whatever times you're up against, we're here. We're your friends forever. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And I'm here as someone who cannot guarantee that. Like, if you're going through a particularly rough time, I might be just like, good luck with all that, and slip out the back door. But it's me, Niall McGowan.
I suppose, yeah, I should clarify, it is conditional. Like, if you come to me and say, I've murdered a man, there may be a difficult thing there to support you. I apologise. It depends on the context.
That is one of the ones I will support you on. I will happily cover for you. Like, just be like, yeah, you know, get a bit of a thrill. It's like, oh, I don't know if you can get away with it, but can I get away with it?
I mean, feel free to come to me if you've sliced a man's head off with a samurai sword. I mean, that's spoiler alert. That might come up later.
Come on.
We are here to talk about minute 12 of Miami Connection. The minute starts with loyalty and honesty, and it ends with more of the same. You know, there's a lot of loyalty, a lot of honesty going around.
Yeah.
As we saw in that Sandman TV show, sometimes there can be too much honesty. But yes, because we see... what's the character's name in that? I can't think of his name.
Which one? Teeth for Eyes? The Sandman?
David Thewlis.
Oh, yes. John D. Yeah.
John D.
Dr. Destiny, actually, in the DC comics, way back when.
Well, he, for people who haven't seen that, he basically has these... he obtains these powers that can make people do whatever he wants. He can make his dreams come true, basically, is the idea. And
like Hall & Oates, he'll make your dreams come true.
Yeah. And his dream is that, you know, the world was honest. Just honest. It ends up in a bloodbath. Yeah. Which he doesn't cause as such. He just has them be honest.
Yeah. I know that was one of the areas where they improved on the comic too, because originally it's just that he has the dream stone, and he just uses it just to mess with people. He's just getting people to do what he wants just because he's like a psychopath, basically. But yeah, they actually give him a bit more depth than just being power hunger maniac. He has a philosophy and stuff that's a bit more, it's a bit deeper in the show. So that was one of the things. It's like, I'm such a big Sandman fan, grew up reading all the comics and stuff. I was going through everything with a fine tooth comb, and that I was like, oh, that's actually better than what was in the original material.
That's a rare occurrence. That's amazing.
Yeah. And plus, yeah, David Thewlis perfectly cast in that part too. Great. That is probably that and the episode that followed were like, actually, and the episode immediately prior.
Yeah, that was like a trio of fantastic ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really hit a stride. And then after the death one, I was like, it's still good, but it just sort of like, it kind of has to reset the story. So it's like, well, you know, it sort of loses the fitting a little bit. It's footing a little bit.
It almost felt like that should have been a season 2, but they weren't guaranteed one. So it's like, get it in.
That's the thing. That was in the original comics. That was the second story arc.
Oh,
so it would have been, you would have had it ended with the death issue. And then they would have taken a break, and then they came back, and the 7th story arc was a doll's house, or the doll's house, sorry. And yeah, that was all that. So I guess they were like, oh, we can't stretch this out to being, and we can't you could just make a 6-episode season. To be fair, it's very expensive, so you might as well.
Yeah, and that's the English way. 6 episodes, that's all you're getting.
Yeah, plus I think Disney Plus are doing all that stuff now. They're just like, hey, guess what? This thing's only 8 episodes. You're like, all right, fine, whatever.
You get what you're given.
I was still shocked that we're in the middle of She-Hulk. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of getting somewhere now. And then there's like, yeah, there's 2 episodes left. It's like, there's 2 episodes left? Nothing's happened the whole show.
Really?
Yeah, 2 episodes. I think it's one of the few ones where I'm like, and you know me, where I'm all like, these, particularly the Netflix shows, is like, oh, they're too long. They're too, I got a solid hour for the story. And there's like 12 episodes. Come on, you can cut all this down. But She-Hulk's one of the few ones I'm like, because it feels like it's not dealing with any of the issues it brings up really in any kind of depth. So it's kind of like, you know, Ally McBeal was 45 minutes, and it got into a relationship drama and all the courtroom stuff, and it had time to deal with both because it was 45 minutes. This is kind of like zip, 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 and we're out.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's nearly the end of the season already, and you're like, oh, I guess we're kind of getting into it now.
I think they should have just made it a weekly show. Never stop. Just keep going like a soap.
I mean, those the Marvel special effects people, they're already worked to the bone. It'd be like a death sentence. It's like, yes, you've got a job in She-Hulk. It means you're constantly employed. But it means you have to work at this thing all day, every day, for the rest of your life.
Well, it's not like they put much effort into it anyway. Oh!
For what they say, though, they might have been putting in as much effort as they possibly could, but they were just
what
told,
they had left in their bodies.
yeah, and they're just told, like, oh, yeah, it needs to be done by, 2 hours. Like, what?
What? The whole season.
Yes.
But we are here to talk about Miami Connection.
Yeah.
And yes, the minute, we are back in the minute, so to speak, as we celebrate loyalty and honesty. And, we see Mark dancing and grooving again like only he can. But after that, I quite liked something. We catch a brief glimpse of somebody in the crowd.
Oh.
And I just can't help but think she looks like generic movie mum.
I did have... My note specifically says 80s mom hair.
Yes!
And the thing is, as the clip goes on, too, there's a lot of people in the crowd are like, they could be... Maybe this is like the over 40s night or something in the club. Like, this might be the post-divorce kind of night, because there's a couple of people I'm like, they look like they could be, they're, getting on, not getting on a bit, but like, they're of an age and they're just at, maybe they got a babysitter for the night. And the specific shot of people where I really was mentally going, maybe Dragon Sound is getting in the over 40s crowd. Like,
yeah, there's a good few there. They're trying to make them look young.
But then, Dragon Sounds themselves, they could be... what age? Because YK Kim seems like he could be like... If you told me he was 50, I'd be like, yeah, maybe.
I'd buy it. I mean, I'm going to guess that as an actor... We could look this up, but we're just going to guess out of the blue. As an actor, I'm going to say he's probably, right, even though he looks older than me, I'm going to say he's 35.
Really?
Here, yeah. But I reckon the character's meant to be younger.
Oh, I think they're all supposed to be like fresh out of college or something. Or even one of them still... Oh, no, because he's going out with the little sister who is in college.
It never really elaborates on how old they are, because it gives a vibe sometimes of like they maybe went to college late because they're all pans. So they had to get together and all work on this plan. Like, we haven't got anything. We've got no money. You know what? We're going to go and get an education.
They are very much living an orphan student lifestyle, though. Because, like, this all hang around in it. The stuff I did when I was, like, 20. It's like, oh, you hang around in a house with your friends, and some of them are in a band, and they're talking about all these grand world tour ideas that are never going to happen because they're crazy. But then afterwards, like, oh yeah, by the time you hit your late 20s, it's like, oh, that's all over. But then Dragon Sound, particularly YK Kim himself, Mark, it seems like, no, these guys are all in their 30s or something. Like they've just dedicated themselves to this lifestyle. That they, oh no, we will be friends forever. Forever we'll be together.
I love that. I respect it. That's me. That's my vibe. I like it.
It's like, we're not settling down because we play to win, baby.
That's it. They play to win. And you don't win by being a sucker. Yeah.
By just going off and do the normal thing. You hang out with your towel slung over your shoulder and your unbuttoned jeans all day.
TMI, I currently have unbuttoned jeans.
Oh. I'm assuming, John, that we're wearing our podcasting uniform of shirtless with a towel over your shoulder and unbuttoned, way too tight jeans.
I mean, that I can't record without that on. It's my emotional support towel.
And you whisper things to it on occasion when you're feeling a little bit blue, and sometimes it whispers things back, and
it does, and that's when you need to worry.
Anyhow, but yeah, so we do have mom hair in. I think it's we only see that the shoulder, but it looks like a very mumsy kind of jumper as well.
Yeah, I don't think I tried to take in the jumper. Let me see. Let me look at the jumper. Sweater to you Americans again, with your stupid phrases. Yeah, it could be a cardigan. I can't really tell. But then I was going to say, were the 80s into cardigans? Yes, I've watched enough movies.
God, the 80s. The 80s were into cardigans, man. Yeah. You watch Pretty in Pink. Jeez, Louise, freaking cardigans. leaping off the screen at you.
And it runs the gamut, doesn't it? The posh, preppy, rich kids like them, and then also the quirky, ducky type alternative.
Yeah, the thrift store, shopping weirdos who like to wear that's always layers in that movie. Everybody's wearing like just things upon things, which I have to say I do support.
I think that's why I'm a fan of a good layer.
Well, that's but I always ends up feeling and looking very bulky. I don't know how they pulled it off in the 80s, but it's like, you still tell that they're got a slim physique, but they're wearing a lot of stuff. Where, I used to try it when I was younger. And it always looked like, you look like you're wearing too many clothes, man.
I think it's purely about the fact that they have a stylist on set to know the cut.
Yeah.
Whereas, we might like fashion, but we don't know our cuts very well. Although, speaking of fashion, we see something very fashionable. We see these lovely drums.
Ah, yeah, the synth drums. Because, again, being the 80s, the 80s loved the Cardigan, and they loved all things synth. Not just the keyboards. It had to be everything. So that's why you had drum machines and whatnot getting made. Because drumming, I guess, sounded too good. So we're like, oh, these synth keyboards, they're doing wonders. Which were great, to be fair. But then they started elaborating out into, keytars and synth drums, and then friggin', I don't know, synth glockenspiels, and hey, it's an electric cowbell or something.
Well,
a synth triangle, maybe.
I've written down the reason. So this drum kit, basically, I got some musicians I know to take a look at a still and tell me what is this drum kit. And they were pretty much all unanimous in telling me, oh, this is one of the famous Simmons SDS-V drum kits.
I was really hoping that, I really hoped you were going to say they were all unanimous in saying, I don't know.
No, I got the goods. And this kit was made by let's see, Dave Simmons, who owns Simmons.
Not Dave Synthmans.
Synthmans, no.
Simmons Synths, though. That would maybe they own a music store called Simmons Synths. Maybe give me something, John. Give me something.
No, sorry. The company is now owned by Guitar Center. I don't know if that doesn't really work.
That doesn't sound as good though, because it's like, was it the guy who invented the Moog synthesizer? It was Francis Moog or something. It's that's a name you want to name your instrument after, a Moog. But Simmons is like, nah. Okay. Well, yeah. I think David Simmons is like, okay.
He made it in conjunction with Richard Burgess of the band Landscape, who were famous for the songs Einstein, A Go-Go, and Norman Bates.
Oh.
As in the song Norman Bates. Norman Bates didn't work on the kit. And Burgess did it, right, because he basically, his ideas were partly informed by, he said, a dissatisfaction at having the drums fight for a place in the live mix against instruments that could go directly through the PA.
Yeah.
He said, it came about from many conversations on the road with Landscape about why drums were still in the Stone Age and all other instruments were post-Edison technology. I mean, that's a great phrase.
Yeah.
And he's got a point when you think about it.
Yeah, no, I understand. Because I was briefly hung up there by the idea of Norman Bates working on a drum kit. And been like, what would that have been like? Because he knows how to, tan things. He kept that corpse preserved pretty damn well. So I imagine he could... If he was doing an Ed Gein level of if Ed Gein was making a drum kit, it's he could skin somebody and make a drum out of them. I think he'd probably get a pretty good sound out of it, quite frankly.
I absolutely believe you could do that, yeah. As horrible as that is.
No, there was that episode of Hannibal, of course, where the killer that tended people's vocal cords to turn them into cellos and stuff.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was great. That was great stuff. But they probably would have got into had he gone on. It was like, you can make bongos out of somebody's scalp, I guess, if you wanted to. But no, that's a really good term actually. Now it's that's how you sell people on synth drum.
Yep.
Because you would be like, well, what good's that gonna do? Like a synthesizer, it's creating sounds that have never been heard before. But drums are great. They sound brilliant.
Well, I thought the same thing till I looked into it a little bit more.
All you need to tell me was post Edison. I was like, oh no, that's yeah. Now it was clever enough to get me going. Like, oh yeah, I've been an idiot this whole time.
Well, what he did basically was set it up so you can have different presets for the sound. So you can play one song and get a certain sound, and then just hit a button, go into the next track. You're doing live. And you're getting a different drum sound out of it. It sounds like a different type of drum, or a different. Yeah. It's got more emphasis on this sound or that sound. You can have effects on it, like you can a guitar. And when I read that, I was like, "That's amazing! It's like a drum machine, but you're playing it."
Yeah.
That's great. And I'd never considered that before. I always thought, well, they just make them to look weird. Like, what? Are they trying to be futuristic? No.
I think there's a lot of them too would have been used in what's kind of considered like has its fans and stuff, but like the kind of lower end of 80s pop with the stock Aitken
that
Waterman.
Came along a bit later. It started off with the New Romantics and then went into that.
Yeah. So then you're thinking of Rick Astley, you're thinking of Dead or Alive. Although Dead or Alive obviously and Rick Astley are very good, but like
I love them both.
Yeah, but the kind of the crappy end of like the bad Kylie Minogue stuff. The stuff that was a bit like every time it was always the drums sounded like. It sounds so fake. It's it kind of turned from like an innovation into like, oh, it's cheaper. We just get it. We don't even have to pay a drum guy. We can just preset the machine to do whatever we want.
Well, I wrote down some famous people who did use this kit. The first one on the list was Roger Burgess of Landscape. Yeah, He made it.
This is like, I use it myself. Like in the poster, giving a thumbs up and a wink and stuff.
So good, I use it myself. Who else did we have? Phil Collins. Used one. Not all the time, obviously, but he did.
I can imagine, he would be just going through like I'll give it a. He's rich. He's an Genesis experimental band, so like I can imagine you go for it.
And he's someone renowned for experimenting with drum sounds and things. So it makes sense to me. We've got Roger Taylor of Queen also utilised one. The other Roger Taylor of Duran Duran.
I imagine it must be played on like Radio Gaga or something. Because that's all futuristic sounding. That's when Queen went synth and stuff. So
it probably is actually. I didn't actually get the info on which tracks in particular they used them on.
I think did he write that as well? So no, Queen they did that thing of like, oh yeah, all of them wrote all the songs like. But they'll be like Freddie Mercury wrote this one, and then Brian May wrote this other completely
like
different
the
song.
Beatles.
Yeah. They actually divvied it up, and then to come in and go, I've written a song, and they're like, okay, well, we'll go for that one then. So.
I mean, obviously I'm biased here, but I always liked the way the Sex Pistols did it. It's like it doesn't matter who did what; everyone just gets credited.
Yeah.
And I think that's that. I was going to say that stops fighting, but look at what's happened to them now. It should stop fighting.
Yeah. Or you can really rigidly, like the Smiths, sit down, like we are the songwriters, and you guys do whatever, and then we'll get we'll get more money, and then it comes back 10 years later where they have a massive court case over it, and even one of the original credited songwriters is like, no, those guys deserve more money, and only who would be the asshole of the group to be like, no, they don't deserve any of that money. It'll be Morrissey himself.
What? No, I never suspected that.
And then he got dressed down publicly by the judge. And you'd be shocked to find out he still bears a grudge about it to this day.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me one bit. He probably thinks about it every night in bed.
So he wrote his autobiography of about an autobiography that's about 400 pages, 50 of which are dedicated to that court case. I was like, it was 25 years ago.
Let it go.
Jeez,
let it go. Let it go. I'll repeat myself now. Roger Taylor, the other Roger Taylor of Duran Duran. Now, I imagine that probably doesn't surprise you from what you were saying with the kind of sounds you were expecting out of this kit.
Yeah.
That's a very Duran Duran sort. And Duran Duran, of course, at the beginning, especially very tied to the whole new romantic thing, so it makes sense. But then you go a very different route with the next one I got here, Rick Allen of Def Leppard. And I don't want to assume anything. But do you think maybe that's because he had, he lost an arm? And it's like, well, I can do more with this kit than I could.
I would be near certain. I'm sure he's probably a very public, vocal advocate of the kit for that very reason. Because, it would really... people don't know drummer from Def Leppard. lost an arm mid-career, like mid-80s. He lost it. Came back, and they had some of their biggest hits after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine the guy would have been. He'd been like, oh, so I can still do everything, but now with the help of electronics. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and also like he hasn't got to set loads of stuff up between. He can just hit a button and change to a different preset where he. Like, okay, on this song, the drums sound like they're underwater. Boom, press the button. There we go.
Yeah, I did one time watch a Def Leppard biopic.
Oh, okay.
Made for TV, starring Paul McGann of Whitnell and I, and that one Doctor Who thing he was in. But it was just great because the actual scene of the car crash is like, it's very like it's a desert road. And it's like the big long black tarmac with a yellow line straight up it. So you're like, oh, it's definitely America. But then they put up a sign saying Manchester, 2 miles. And it's like, they're trying to make you like, oh, no, it happened in England. It's like, it might have happened in England in real life. It ain't happening in England right here, I'll tell you that. He's freaking lying there, vulture coming down and stealing his arm or something.
That's very English. What are you talking about? It's our national bird, Niall. National
the kestrel and the vultures together at last.
You'll like this one. Thomas Dolby used one.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh,
everything's connected.
Makes perfectly. Very experimental guy would be like messing around with all that stuff. So, if people don't know, if they listen to our other show and if they, when we covered Rockula.
Yeah, on the Patreon, in fact, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, of course. But we highly publicized the fact that Thomas Dolby looks like our Bat Minutes songsmith and friend of the show, Kit Flemons. So much so in Rockula that it was actively a distraction.
Yeah.
It was like every time he's on screen, it's like, that's Kit. It's the same man. Like, it was bizarre.
I think that's secretly his dad.
It was getting to a point, I'm like, Kit, you gotta get your DNA tested or something. And that kid was just Thomas Dolby, and he's just like, oh, I'm like 70 years old. Like I've been around a while now.
He's a vampire. I wrote that. I'll blitz through a few others. We won't talk about every single one of them. Jet Black of the Stranglers, Lee Harris of Talk Talk, Warren Cann of Ultravox, John Moss of Culture Club.
I'm noticing a lot of these bands, like, they're very 80s centric in that, like, the drums is not like, once 1990 hit. I guess actually, once Nirvana hit, a lot of those things would have got thrown out the window.
That is pretty much part of it, yeah. Then it became cool to go back to basics. Yeah. Because I don't know for sure, obviously, because I'm trying to convert money and things. I think they were quite expensive. But you got a lot of bang for your buck. So, if you can afford it, get one. Hell yeah. Especially for recording. If you're not going to use it live or whatever, that's fine. What else? Nick Mason of Pink Floyd. That's not 80s.
Well, I guess it would have been the 80s recordings of Pink Floyd, though.
Yeah, well, it was. They were made in the 80s, yeah. But you know what I mean? It's still like an older group, but always experimenting with sounds again. Who else we got? Neil Peart of Rush. Yeah. Ali Score of A Flock of Seagulls. Very 80s
mutual friend of both me and John. Lived next door to the lead singer of Flock of Seagulls for several years. So. And one of those things where he only told me like the day before he was moving out. That he was like, I'm moving a house. He's like, I'm going to miss the, so-and-so next door. And I was like, the Flock of Seagulls guy, like, jokingly said that.
What?
And he's like, yeah. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's the guy from Flock of Seagulls. I've lived next to him for, like, the last 6 years. I was
Why
like,
didn't you tell me
this? I would have been around your house all the time trying to get nosy at that guy.
Oh, I know. Gutted.
Apparently he says he's very nice, but he does seem a little bit unhappy. So...
Well, it's because a random's talking to him. I feel unhappy when a random speaks to me.
Well, he was his neighbour. He spoke to him on many occasions.
Yeah, I don't speak to my neighbours. I only speak to them to go pick up a parcel. That's it. Like, have you got a parcel for number 97? I've got one last one for you that you're going to like. The drummer Bobby Z played it for Prince.
Ah, nice. Also, again, Prince. Very experimental kind of guy. So I know it feels now because, again, it didn't seem to break out of the 80s. There was a lot of musicians experimenting with them back then. And then they all went, no.
I think it was
put them
just one of
aside.
those things that's like, okay, it's an amazing piece of technology, but I don't know. It kind of got caught up in a wave, so it became the sound of the past by the time 1992 rolled around.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the even though they were going for a futuristic approach.
Yeah, I think again too, grunge would have been, because grunge really affected a lot of mainstream pop. Like even the fact like all the hair metal bands, like freaking like Motley Crue and Skid Row were kind of like, what are we gonna do? We're grunge too, guys.
Yeah,
like,
it killed everything. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because it's like a reset. Which is kind of why they got lumped in with punk. Grunge was always the new punk, and they were playing with punk bands, because it's like, well, this is the reset again. This is like they did in 1977. We're going to reset music.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Here's in all this talk of drums, though. I've only just realized, who is the drummer for Dragon Sound?
I can get you that info. I
don't mean in the film, because we know Jeff is lead singer, Mark is there. He's doing taekwondo on stage and holding and swaying around with a guitar. John is the rhythm guitar, and Jane obviously backup, lead singer on occasion, and backing vocals. Jim on keyboards, and I can see him in the back. I can't see his face, but there's some random guy who's just on the drums.
I'll tell you, I've got his name, and when I explain who he is, you're like, oh, he does pop up later on.
Oh, okay.
He is Jack. He's the Israeli. Now, because he pops up when they're planning the tour.
Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot all about that guy. Oh, no. Really, just doing like, oh, is there a phantom member of Dragon? No, of course there's another guy. I forgot all about him.
It's a ghost. Like, what was that movie they said was a ghost in the background?
Three men and a baby.
That was it.
Yeah.
Turns out it's really bland, the truth.
Oh yeah, it was a deleted subplot about Ted Danson in a movie with a kid, and he had a cardboard cutout of the kid in his house or something. But,
yeah, no.
But for years, people were like, "No, it's the ghost of his child who died in that building and stuff." Did you see all the stuff with during the Queen's funeral? The ghostly voice of Diana being heard.
No, what?
Oh yeah, it was Twitter's obviously a cesspool, but it's good for some things, in terms of violently overreacting to minor things. But during the ITV news coverage, as Hugh Evers or whoever was nattering on about the coffin going down the street, at one point his audio went out, and a woman's voice came in and said something to the effect of, because the death is irreversible and the fact that she's trapped, and then cut out again and went into his, and he just picked up as if nothing went on. Now, most people will be like, oh, so that was like a hot mic situation. Someone in the studio, had a mic on them, didn't realize. Yeah. And then, or, someone flipped the mic switch on in the booth, and, that kind of thing. But of course, Twitter were like, no, he's alone in the booth. And people were unanimous in saying it sounded exactly like Princess Diana.
Does it? Have you listened to it?
I've watched the clip many, many times. Because it is, when you go into it with that mindset, it is creepy. Because it is like, what? But it is obviously, it's a hot mic situation.
Because why would a ghost say that?
Yeah, it was, if you combine it with that phrasing, like in context, that might have made perfect sense, whatever that context could have been. But yeah, randomly you hear a ghostly voice saying the death is irreversible and the fact that she's trapped. And it was just like, and again, cut off before, and it sounded a bit sad as well. But it was Diana. She'd be like, "What? Let's go, baby!"
Hey, possibly we don't want to get sued. We don't know. Were they involved? Were they not involved?
The Windsors are, of course, very big fans of Miami Connection, and no doubt
it's their favorite movie. That's what I've heard. I've heard Charles watches it twice a week.
Well, that was the big. One of the headlines that kept popping up as well, because I'm subscribed to. Well, I imagine we both are. Subscribed to so many Twin Peaks groups. They did mention that apparently Angelo Badalamenti claims that Paul McCartney told him that the Queen turned down going to see him in concert because he wanted to watch Twin Peaks at home.
I've heard it before. I'd heard this in the past, so I think it's true. It's come up a few times.
But the thing is, does that make me like the Queen more? No. So...
She's a peeker.
If she was in the crowd at Dragon Sound here, like maybe then the ice walls could begin to melt.
The truth will come out now. It turns out she's got loads of cameos in movies that I don't want people to know it's me, though. She's in Star Wars and everything. She's a stormtrooper.
Yeah, the Naked Gun, of course.
Of course. Yeah, it's really her.
I would really love to have a cut to a random shot of the Queen in Dragon Sound just doing the little wave and stuff.
Yeah, woo. I've got loads of notes here about the ins and outs of how the drums work, but we're not a music podcast, so look it up yourselves. The Simmons drums.
Sometimes it gets into the tech. Like I remember trying in the Batman and Robin season to explain how the actual Mr. Freeze gun prop worked. And it was so technically detailed. I have no idea if it translated over to people, because it felt like you'd need to be reading it to see, like, for the information to even sink in.
Yeah,
it was so
that's
dense
the thing.
And stuff.
So I've got all this in front of me, and I don't fully get it. But yeah, you can look it up. But the other bit I've got is Landscape had demonstrated a prototype of the drum kit in November 1979 on the BBC TV show Tomorrow's World.
Oh.
So they were like, "This is the drum of the future," Boom.
Should have really BBC used to start up a new show called Yesterday's World.
Looking
that
back
was all the tech that was on Tomorrow's World that didn't take off.
That'd be amazing. Well, this took off. This was huge, but that is a good idea because nostalgia is all the rage.
Yeah, maybe we should be. I should actually. We should get that lined up for the BBC. Like, get the old tapes, track down the creators. And see, like, how that... But it might be, like, a really upsetting experience for them, though, because they're like, I poured my life savings into this, and it did not take off at all.
What was that, like, weird little car? That English car? It was, like, really small. Or, like, a bike. It's kind of like a cross between a car and a bike.
Like, a little kind of, like...
it was
like, almost like a little bullet kind of looking thing.
Yeah. Like, that was cool.
Yeah, that wasn't even all that long ago, was it? That was that's a, like, recent memory to me.
No, it is old. It's like 80s again.
Well, of the age now, John, like everything was 10 minutes ago to me, really. So
was it? It was someone who worked in another field, like Amstrad or someone like that, or Commodore, like a computer company.
Alan Sugar himself was driving around.
It was someone like that. I can't remember who it was.
It wasn't a Richard Branson thing. It kind of feels like something he would do, but
it does, but it's not. I used to like him when Richard Branson, before he became an absolute twat, when he used to just do records and then weirdly make Coke. Virgin Cola was good, and the bottle was based on Pamela Anderson's body, that's intriguing. Yeah.
So now we've mentioned both Motley Crue and Pamela Anderson.
Everything's connected.
Yeah.
And I've got a thing here. It says, this is about Burgess, between his involvement with the aforementioned Shock, which is a note I had earlier on, where's it gone? And Rising Stars, Spandau Ballet, and Visage, Burgess was a prime mover in the burgeoning new romantic scene. He'd produced a bunch of stuff. He'd produced Journeys to Glory, which is the album that put Spandau Ballet on the map.
Oh, nice.
And then with their follow-up, Diamond... he worked with them again and made them the first band to hit the charts with the production model of the drum kit. So there you go, Spandau Ballet.
Yeah. Also say my friend who lived next door to the dude from Flock of Seagulls, my other friend Dave once served Tony Hadley of Spandau Ballet cheesecake. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, he made it himself. Because he worked in a restaurant and he made the cheesecake and then he got to hand it to Tony Hadley.
I love the way that people who don't know him were probably just thinking, why did he feed him cheesecake?
Tony Hadley was just nearby. He's like, I've got some cheesecake, man. Do you want it?
He's got it in his pockets.
He was just like, can I have your autograph, Tony? And he's like, for that cheesecake you're eating? Yeah, I'll tell.
If you give me that cheesecake.
Yeah. Or he signed the cheesecake. He's like, I don't have a pen or paper. He's like, I just write my name in the icing.
I did like it once. I did like it once when I saw Johnny Rotten and someone got him to sign a tub of butter, and he did it. He didn't care. He did it.
Did he sign the butter, the substance, or did he just sign the tub?
The tub.
Oh. I was kind of hoping he would just try to carve his name and the actual. Although I suppose then you'd have to get back to the fridge pretty quickly though, because then I could end up just liquefying very, very.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Particularly in a gig as well, just boiling hot at the best of times. So.
Oh, I suppose you could freeze it. That might maintain it.
Yeah. Although I have to wonder now if the tub was empty when he gave it to him.
Now that I don't know. I always wanted to know the answer to that question.
I would feel a little bit affronted too, because it's like you would have to buy, because Johnny Rotten was Country Life butter, right?
Yeah.
I always felt a little bit like he must have been attracted to the name, because it was like, well, you can very easily turn that into a rude word. But it'll be like one of those things where, like, you get upset when you go to celebrity signing, but they're flogging a book or something, and you have to buy the book to get the autograph. Basically, they're only autographing books. But then it'll be like, oh, you have to fork out like Country Life butter to get the tub signed, and it's like £3 more expensive than all the other goddamn butters.
Tell you what though, it's a good butter.
It
is nice. It's tasty. It's not my favourite. I'm a fan of French butter. French butter's like cheese, and it's got salt in it like goddamn fucking rocks. But Country Life is nice. It's good.
That's a major crisis that hit Ireland recently was due to the ongoing. Well, by the time this episode airs, I don't know if it still will be ongoing. But the war in the Ukraine, the price of Lerczak has skyrocketed.
Oh yeah, that's hit here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, people are really just like, what? It's like £5 for a tub now. It's like, it's insane.
And I just got into Lerczak. I'm not a big butter person, but I needed it. I was having hot cross buns, and I bought that because it's like, well, you can get the spreadable one, and that changed because I hate spreading butter. I'm like a child. I rip the bread to pieces.
Yeah.
But that I was like, you can actually spread it. It's not a lie. It's spreadable.
I'm a big butter. Like, I have toast. Like, toast is one of my favorite meals. So I have toast like all the time. So I'm having butter all the time. I usually have to go for like because I have so much of it, for like a low fat margarine. Because otherwise I would just be like dead at this point. But occasionally I'll be like, oh, fork out for maybe at the weekends. We'll always go for the Kerrygold or something like that. Lerczak is also a good one. Although not now, because it's too goddamn expensive.
Well, let me tell you, right, this is expensive, but get it for a treat, right? I promise you it's good. The Tesco finest French butter with sea salt.
Oh.
It's like eating the nicest cheese you've ever eaten, but it's butter. It's like, oh my god, this is I could just eat it on its own.
For a second there, I thought you said with Cecil. I was just like, is he some guy who's just his face is just on the tub?
Cecil, you know him.
I was like, oh, you just go, you buy it, and Cecil comes home with you. But I guess I don't know. Maybe for your pronunciation, would that be Cecil?
Cecil, yeah. It's only Americans and I think you guys who say Cecil. It's Cecil.
Yeah, Cecil be demented.
Well, that's the only thing. Americans always say Cecil, except in that.
Yeah.
Except in Cecil be demented. Oh, actually, there's one character who does pronounce it as Cecil. I think it's when his dad turns up and he gets on the megaphone. He's like, Cecil, it's your father. And then he's like, oh, god damn.
Yeah, that's like the war I had with one of my friends where she kept saying glacier instead of glacier. And then...
I say glacier, but I think you can say glacier.
But but if you're walking very slowly, would you say at a glacial pace?
No.
And she was like, no, it's at a glacial pace. It's like, that's because it's glacier. But
I agree with you, but I've definitely heard glacier before. She's not made it up.
Yeah, I think she's very posh. It might be very posh people.
Posh people can't speak. Americans, you might not know this. Posh people from like down south, they can't speak. They add R's to things. It's bizarre. Bath.
Oh, they're so rich. They need to get in a couple of extra R's because
time is money, and they don't care about money.
Yeah, that's true.
They can extend conversations by adding letters.
Anywho,
so yes, back in this, I thought the editing in this entire song, not just in this minute, in the whole song, it made me feel like that kind of early 90s MTV style, maybe late 80s. Weird, crazy cuts that don't lead from one to another. Did you notice that a few times? It cuts from one thing, and then it'll cut like to the same guy doing something completely different.
Yeah.
that he wasn't doing half a second ago.
There was, particularly towards, it's actually near the very, very end. There's a shot of a balcony, and there's a woman going like, hey! And then the next shot is her from a different angle. But it's like, it's initially looking up at her, and then the next shot is looking down, and she's looking up. And it's like, now it looks as if she's down in a crowd on ground level, where she was up in the, not a second ago, she was up in a balcony. I was like, is it Mystique? Has she infiltrated the Dragon's Den?
Oh, it is.
That's going to be like the next movie was always going to be Mystique enters Dragon Sound and the X-Men have to come.
It's the crossover that the people have been asking for.
Yeah, that's what I would actually... I'd just even love to get that commissioned as an art piece, like a fake comic book cover of the X-Men of them meeting Dragon Sound. I said, not even mutants, but they're so good, they might as well be mutants.
They're honorary mutants.
Yeah. That weird toe-grabbing thing you can do with people's noses, that might as well... That's like something Beast would do. So maybe YK Kim is half mutant. You don't know.
Turns out he's quarter beast.
Yeah. His last name is Mark Quarterbeast.
That's one word. Quarterbeast. Mark Quarterbeast.
It turns out that there's a... Oh, that was another one for... For years, I was always saying, the old English sci-fi franchise, but it's Quatermass.
Were you saying Quartermass? Like
yeah,
me?
So for decades, for like I didn't see my first Quatermass movie until I was about maybe 18, and then when they were all saying Quatermass, I was like, oh god damn it! Like I've been calling them Quartermass. And the same thing too with only last year did I watch Gunga Din. And I was calling him Gunga Din for years. And then Cary Grant comes out, I was like, yes, Gunga Din. I was like, you Cary Grant, you idiot. It's Gunga Din. And then it's like, oh, everyone else is calling him Gunga Din as well. I
think it's to do with, it must be the same in Ireland, but I think it's to do here at least with English people don't ever want to pronounce anything properly. So it's like, Gunga Din. Din. And it's like, no, Dean. Nah, it's Din.
Yeah. But this is what it looks in writing too. I was like, no, that makes sense. You know, you don't call it a Diener. So Gunga Din or Gunga Din, and there's like no.
It's when you're putting something from one language to another.
Yeah.
I don't know, bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. But maybe people saw Cary Grant in that movie, and they're like, he's saying it, Gunga Din. So maybe it actually was Gunga Din the whole time.
Well, you can't argue with Cary Grant.
And people like prior to, because that was an early role for him too. So it's like, well, prior, wasn't a lot of recordings of people saying the name. It was only written, and so.
Oh, right.
Maybe
Richard Pryor was in Gunga Din.
But yeah, there's some of the editing I actually did quite admire though, because
yeah.
When I was doing that first close up of the drum, I like it goes with the beat, because you shot out the drums, cuts to the crowd. Next time the beat hits, cuts back to the drums, and then cuts back to the crowd again. It's like it's good. It's kinetic. It actually does get you going, because that's the weird thing. We've been talking about this song for like 3 weeks now, and at the end of just watching the minute of this clip, I was getting in like, oh man, this is a really good song. Like, it's ridiculous lyrics that are way too wholesome, written by a bunch of guys who are like, it's just songs by fully grown adults who were just going on about, isn't it nice being friends and
just bros being bros,
just bros being bros. And by the end of it, when it starts doing the refrain, so it does that thing where it's like it sings the chorus and then sings the chorus again and then sings the chorus again. And you're all like, yes, the song rocks. I love it.
Hell yeah. And I agree. I actually, even though I was sort of mocking that the weird sort of cuts that don't lead anywhere, I think most of this is really well shot, genuinely. And I think the team working on this, I think they could have done like music videos or live concert videos. I think that could have been somewhere they went.
I don't know if it would be a possibility, if there's a possibility they did hire, because I guess, as you mentioned earlier, this is the age of MTV now. Either people were very directly influenced by the big thing, or they might have actually hired, like maybe not an editor for MTV, but like someone who was specializing in that kind of territory. And they're like, yeah, could you do the concert footage at least? Because it's so much better edited than the footage later in the movie. It does feel like they could have potentially gone like, oh, we'll get like a second, maybe it was a second unit person who actually went on to do something with like their career after.
And that second unit person was
Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan.
And then there's so many fast cuts. He's like, I can't be doing this in my own films. So everything's going to go at a glacial pace.
It's going to be the exact opposite of that Miami Connection trash.
And I was like, damn it, Chris, you hack. No dead hack, Chris Nolan. It's glacial.
Oh. But I really like having Jane on stage with the band. I love it, right? But she needs a few more moves. I say this is from one professional to another. She needs a few more moves. You know, Go Bordello, this ain't.
Yeah.
She's got a nice little clap. That's about it. Occasional fist pump.
This might be... Because I consider her, as mentioned previously, to be more in the Fred and B-52s kind of scenario, because she does sing, presumably a couple of songs. We're not seeing Dragon Sound's entire set. So it could be that she's more like, well, this is just one of the 3 songs out of 12 where I have to take a stand back.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, at the same time, wouldn't hurt if she does. But then she might only actually get the vibe that she is a recent addition to the band, because Jeff was unaware that his sister, like, it kind of been going on for more than like a couple of months of the band. But like a couple of months is enough time to work out some moves, I guess.
What do you reckon happened to the last woman in the band? Where's she?
Oh, tragic story.
Ninjas.
Yeah, almost definitely something to do with the lousy Miami ninjas.
We need a prequel story about her then, whoever she was.
And there's so many. That I was actually thinking about earlier, and I was like, could this be a thing that'll be worth doing just for the fun of it? Is that I was considering, like, if I had the time, could I write a spec novelization of Miami Connection?
Oh my god, yes.
And then just send it to a publisher and be like, whoever owns the right, send it to YK Kim and be like, I've written, I'm looking for your blessing, because I don't know if I've made up a bunch of stuff, probably just all stuff that we came up with during the podcast. Yeah. And just like, so now so it would be that, like, oh yes, Jane is the new singer because the previous singer was like beheaded during a turf war with so I was listening to oh my God save my soul, but I had to the John Peters, infamous producer of many films. People who listen to Batman will know John Peters because we talked about him in the first season a lot. Very eccentric, bizarre producer of many, many hit movies, but he was Barbra Streisand's hairdresser. Then he became her producer, and then he became her husband. And very flamboyant guy, big beffonted hair.
Beautiful hair.
Also claims that he's been in 2,000 street fights in his life. He has a bullet lodged in his chest that he refuses to get cut out because he won't be cut, even though the lead is toxic and could kill him and stuff. And apparently he's was in juvenile hall for shooting 5 people. And then they give him the option when it came out. It's like, well, you either go into the military or you can become a hairdresser. And that's how he became. But he was going on about one, like, he was telling a story on, because he doesn't do a lot of interviews. And he was on Joe Rogan recently. And I would never normally go near Joe Rogan, but it's John Peters. And I watched a couple of clips on YouTube, and it's like, I need to hear the whole thing, because he's such a bizarre, interesting, fascinating man. Because everything he comes up with, you don't know if he's just making it up or not, or if it's like, was he in 2,000 street fights? Is he just pulling this all out of his ass? Like, at one point in the middle of interviews, he mentions that his sister died the day before. And then he's just like, yeah, I only found out at 3 p.m. this afternoon, but I didn't want to cancel because this was too important to me. And I was like, going on Joe Rogan's more important than your sister dying?
Well, mate, I don't know, right? I'll defend it in a way. Some people deal with things like by keeping busy, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my partner left. And the very next day, I had to record the biggest podcast I'd ever done. And it was like, well, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not fucking stopping this. Yeah. And it helps. It like distracts you. So maybe that's what he was thinking. But knowing him and seeing interviews with him before, he's probably just being a prick.
Yeah, he's either being a prick or he's making it up, or like you just can't tell. Because everything with him sounds so, including like what I was thinking. is he tells a story about when he was married to Leslie Ann Warren, who was an actress back in like the 70s. She had a stalker, and then to stop the stalker, John Peters was like, so I got a bunch of my hairdresser biker friends to go after him.
Hairdresser biker friends.
And Joe Rogan's like, hairdresser biker friends? And he's like, yeah, a bunch of tough guys who are like hairdressers and they're my buddies. And they're all like, apparently he sent out a gang of hairdresser, like motorbike guys, the Hells Angels with hairdressers. After this one dude didn't even work too. Apparently he outmaneuvered them, broke back into the house, and John Peters, bollock naked because it's the middle of the night, jumped off the mezzanine to tackle the guy, and then had a fist fight with him. And at this point, you're just like, what? But he says like, no, it's in. If you look it up, it's in the LA Times from the week it happened. I'm not making this up.
Okay, so motorbike ninjas aren't that far fetched as well.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like maybe Yoshito is just like they could have had a run-in with the Hells Angels Helldressers. They could have been the ones who killed. Yeah, the prequel is, and then like maybe one of Dragon Sound used to be one of them. Maybe Joe, the freaking out of the mullet, he used to be one of those guys, and then Mark had to like sway him over to his more peaceful version of Taekwondo or something.
That's it. Oh my god, he can be the main villain of the prequel.
Yeah. There were John Peters in there somehow. Recently played by Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza. So, you never know. He might want to be...
amazing.
Bradley Cooper might want to be involved in the Miami Connection prequel adaptation. So.
Bradley Cooper, I know you're listening, so hit us up. Send us an email.
Yeah.
Well, someone who's not too good at their part is... here we have Mark playing the part of guitar player. But he just stops playing it with no noticeable change in the sound. I smell a rat.
Yeah. At one point he's kind of fixing the strap, and then he starts idly swaying again. And then the hands strumming near the strings. And it's
like he's afraid to touch them because he doesn't want to break his mate's guitar.
It is just so weird, though. It's like, at least could have put him behind the keyboard, because then it wouldn't be as noticeable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess if he's doing keyboard stuff, you can't have him out doing taekwondo stuff as well. So
he can't do the foot move.
Yeah. It knocks over the keyboard every time. It's like, not into the drum kit, it's so expensive now!
There's another thing that's a bit odd as well. There's like a weird effect, right, which I assumed after listening a few times and watching was coming out of the guitar for the solo.
Oh, yeah, I have a similar note myself, where Joe, he really acts as if he's playing a guitar solo.
Yeah.
And it sounds much more like it's a keyboard part.
It's kind of like a sax, like a synth sax, right? Because it sounds like it's coming from the keys, but it's not. If it is, show us Jim then. Jim on the keys.
I thought it was quite strange, too, because he's banging away at that guitar, Joe. And then when he goes in to the solo, that sound, you don't see like his foot hit a pedal or something, so it would switch the sound. But it's like, that's not in any way the sound that was coming out of the guitar you were hitting it earlier. So, it should be. I don't know if it is a bit like, is the guy, like, just not be the center of attention for a second? Could not just cut to Jim playing the keyboard?
Hey,
like,
he did all of the music.
I mean, I guess so, but like, he gets so many glory shots. Like, he's on a little podium at the top of everybody else.
I'd love it if I found out that was his suggestion. I think I should be like elevated on a podium.
It's like, I built the podium myself. Like, I carry it around with me.
He just brings it to different venues.
Sometimes when he's a one-man band, it's like the big drum on his back that he has a pedal and it beats the thing. And it also doubles as a podium when he's playing with a band.
We all need our own podium. Lift yourselves up, people. Celebrate your own successes. Be your own podium.
But yeah, I thought it was odd, though, because the rest of his miming, obviously Mark's miming is just awful, but like Joe's is always a bit like, because a lot of the time he seems really banging the guitar. It's like that freaking guy from The Strokes.
Yeah.
Like he was like, oh my, just leave the guitar alone, dude. What are you doing? But then it's so this miming there is not great, because it's like, I don't know if it would be making that sound it should be emitting from the way you're banging the thing. But then to cut in, he's very clearly playing something that looks quite convincing, but then it doesn't sound as if that's coming from the guitar. Like,
he sounds must like have even if it's like in universe, he must have hit a pedal and we just don't quite see. So, because a lot of guitarists I've seen can hit those pedals, and you're not aware they've even done it. They're like so silky smooth. It's like, you're too captivated by them.
Yeah, but this is 80s pedals though. This is probably like had to stomp the thing.
Bang!
But of course, would have made it better now that everybody, except of course Mark and Jane, are shirtless on stage. And if you're getting something that sounds a bit like a sax, could only have been improved of Tim Capello.
Yes.
From the Lost Boys, who we mentioned many, many times during our Batman Forever and Batman and Robin seasons.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I wrote down, why isn't he in Dragon Sound?
Yeah, like Joe steps off the podium and it bursts into flames, and Tim Capello comes up through the center of it. And he just does a raging guitar or raging saxophone solo.
It's the only way to improve this movie.
I think that because the crowd had gone so crazy, that might actually like cause like aneurysms and stuff. People couldn't take it.
Yeah, it would just finish people off. There'd be people falling dead. There'd be orgasms, everything.
The guys, they are killing it. Like, they are legit killing this. Everybody properly loves them.
Yeah.
As they should. I do appreciate the one shot of the club owner, though.
Yeah.
With his two ladies on his arm.
He's a hit with the ladies, somehow.
And it's a third lady in the background, too. I'm choosing to believe, she's also there, too. But
yeah, dude's a player.
Yeah,
he's got a woman waiting in the wings.
Like, he's only met these women, and one of his opening gambits was like, well, I know Dragon Sound. Like, I booked these guys.
Yeah, some could say, we're really close, we're best friends.
Yeah, I can introduce them to you backstage if you want.
It does give me, even though what we've seen of this guy is like, oh yeah, he's all right, this shot alone makes me think, he's a sleazeball.
Yeah. Well, we know he has altercations later in the movie as well, too. Like, and also, like, Park Avenue ain't there anymore. So, canceled.
Yeah, this is why he got called out. Me too.
Yeah, this is the Me Too of the early 90s potentially got to him eventually.
No, it is such a stereotype, especially from this era, of the club owner. Well, he's got women all over him.
Yeah, well, they all love a swarthy middle-aged man. Oh, say he's got money. I mean, this club.
Like, I'm sure he makes enough. But
yeah,
has he got money?
I'm sure he's one of those guys who probably has like a couple. Like, he's probably got like potentially 50 or 60 grand stocked away somewhere. But a lot of it's probably not legitimately earned. There's a lot of corners cut. There's a lot of bands who are underpaid and things like that.
Getting like when people are selling coke, it's like, well, I want to take 5% off the top.
Of course, it will be like, it's fully sanctioned. It's just that you give me 5% of whatever sale you get. Of course, we know that you move a lot of coke in Miami. But
that would be a great twist. The club owner is in on the drug dealing.
Of course, though, we should point out this is not Miami. That they're
no, of course.
Although, I mean, that's why Yoshida is there. He's just like, oh yeah, this is where he moves a lot of coke in Miami, but now he's heard there's a potential in this Park Avenue place. He's like, well, maybe I could start moving an operation over here.
Smart guy. Very
clever. But the club owner guy, though, he was one of the people I was thinking, like, because he looks like not middle-aged, like a 40-something divorcee. Yeah. Or, guys.
Oh, yeah, the wife left him like a month ago.
Yeah, one of many wives. I'd wager the guess. And as again, he's too, like, he's got other divorcees on his arm now. This is his night. This is probably like a Tuesday night. Yeah. And this is just like, if you got a babysitter, you can come out and go to see Dragon Sound. And it turns out Dragon Sound's been going since like the 60s or something. It's like all these. So I used to have Dragon Sound posters on my room when I was a teenager.
Oh, if only I did. That would have really made my life.
Hey, it's not too late, John. You can.
Oh, I'm going to get those posters up now. Don't you get me wrong. Plus, it'll get me the ladies.
Yeah, and not framed, not in any way classy. It has to be a poster at an angle.
Oh yeah, with a little tear in one corner, another corner peeling off the wall.
Yeah, that's optimal band poster look. Like when you get people in, then they start showing you like framed posters. It's like, that's not what a band poster is about, man. And those T-shirts should be faded to within an inch of their life.
Hell yeah, cracked. Everything.
And not like, Primark mass produced fake faded. It should be legitimately, I'm here to gatekeep your band t-shirts, all right? And your band posters. Oh, of course, people can do whatever they want. We can wear whatever band t-shirts.
But now I want to make our merch in distressed form. Just to annoy you.
Yeah, acid washed. We got some acid washed Miami Minutes jeans out there.
If only TeePublic let us do acid washing.
No. But, we can do it ourselves and then send it in.
Yeah, if you want to pay like $40 for one, yeah, we'll do it.
I was saying, though, my friend's little girl, Dinara, was wearing a Ramones t-shirt the other day, and she couldn't even name 3 albums, John. No. It's probably because she can barely talk, but I don't think she's even heard Blitzkrieg Bop. I don't think she even knows what a Blitzkrieg is.
Oh, that's disgraceful. You should have just gone, get upstairs and get changed. This is not happening while I'm here.
You can wear Peppa Pig and Wheels on the Bus t-shirts. That's the only thing you're allowed to wear these days.
Poser.
Moana. She loves Moana. She can wear the Moana t-shirts.
I've had it up to here with these poser kids. God damn it. They don't know anything about punk.
Although I would like to get her, it is her birthday very soon, I would like to get a little Dragon Sound t-shirt if I could.
Get a Miami Minutes shirt for her.
Of course.
I love this as well. We see the lighting sort of tech going wild on the dials. And I thought we're getting a show to rival Pink Floyd.
Yeah, he's like jabbing them. It's not just like a glide up. This is like, I'm jabbing a goddamn. It's like he's playing. It's like they couldn't get a shot of the keyboard player because of it's just like, they can't get the camera to that angle. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can pretend that this mixer is the keyboard and just like, no, it doesn't work. Cut the shot of the lights to say it's the lighting guy now.
It's amazing. My first thought was, is it the soundboard? But then it cuts immediately to the lights going crazy while he's hitting these buttons. So
you see him, he jabs, then he looks up, and then it cuts to the lights. Which is clear, it's the lights that he's put on and stuff.
It's amazing.
He knows the refrain is coming, and this is where you kick in friends into high gear.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I've always admired the lighting team, right? Because I don't understand how they do it. How they can often time things just right, even with absolutely no prep. For instance, when we're playing and stuff, the lighting's been amazing. We've not spoken to the lighting guy. I did once ask, is there some way it's automated to drum beats and apparently you can get that, but nobody has it. It's expensive.
Yeah. It could be. It's just it's a calling,
Yeah, you just gotta feel it, right?
Yeah.
How do you discover you like that and you're good at that? How do you get into that world? If there's any people in lighting, let me know.
I imagine probably some people might start off with the ambition of doing like concert performance, like set design, art, that kind of thing, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'd like to be able to put on a show. They might be behind the scenes in like the theater department at school and stuff.
Well,
learn the basics.
In theater as well. I mean, different to music, but in theater, I mean, lighting's so important.
Yeah. Although a lot of these people, you always find out then that it was like they were 18 and they just needed a job, and then they're just like, you can work the lighting desk, and then somehow they just became really, really good at it. And then they're doing it for Pink Floyd or whatever. It's just like, well, man, you work your way up. But
I think a lot of jobs people just fall into. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people. This is just like somehow some of the greatest people have just been like this, just did a thing, turned out to be amazing at it.
I've always thought you see a company who makes screws. And I'm like, well, did the guy go, my passion is screws. I'm going to make my own screw company. We're going to make the best screws in the world. Yeah. I can't imagine that was ever the case.
I have watched enough of Dragon's Den, or Shark Tank, as it's the American version is called, to see there are people come in and their passion is like screws and stuff. And they're just like, yeah, it was really... they know all the different types of screws, and they're like, yes, I feel that this will be an innovation. That they just like, some people just have that mind, like engineers and stuff are really into like, well, this valve is, this thing, but the little one, that was much more efficient and stuff like that. And, just different strokes,
I suppose, that these people have to exist for our world to function.
Yeah.
And lighting people need to exist for concerts to function. So thank you, everyone involved in lighting. You are the greatest, and I love it when you shine it in my eyes because it means I can't. I mean it genuinely, because that means I can't see the crowd, and I don't want to see the crowd.
Yeah. I think a lot of people on stage are always just like, yeah, you can never, just can't. Like, it's just like, oh, you hear roaring out there, and it's just like, yeah, it's just bright. So
I'll tell you, this club, there's no way you're seeing that crowd, and that's a good thing. That they can't see anyone.
Particularly now that they've said to the lighting guy, jab the goddamn things to make sure the lights are going crazy.
Yeah, woo!
Yeah. But I'm saying, so, because I'd say they start going into a repeated refrain of the chorus, which is the thing I do. I'm not a big person who's into like dance music and repetitive beats and stuff like that, but I do love a good chorus that repeats over and over at the end as it's, fading out or whatever, and you're like, yes, yeah,
this rocks.
Like, can you think of what are your favorite examples of a repeated chorus? Or a repeated riff, a repeated refrain as you're going out.
Well, you know what I'm going to go with? I like the end of God Save the Queen, because he's doing the no future over and over.
You were going to say like the actual friggin' God Save the Queen national anthem.
No, not the anthem. That's not our anthem anymore, Niall.
Oh, of course.
It's changed.
I know. I tried to watch that funeral the other goddamn day. They played it like 5 times.
These women, though, in this minute, up on the balcony, they are loving it. These ain't no balcony monsters. They're balcony badasses.
Balcony babes.
Yeah, balcony. Oh, the balcony babes. Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, as I say, one of the middle one, she's both in the balcony and in the crowd at the same time. So.
That's how great she is, how cool she is now. She can do that.
Yeah. But now it looks as if she's looking down at herself. It's weird. You got them like...
It's like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, second 50. Well, it's just in second 55. It's so quick a cut. It's like it's her looking down from a balcony and bouncing up and down, and then cutting to the same lady looking up and stuff. It's weird.
It's meant to be saying a lot about how you see yourself and things like that. It's meant to be a deep introspective moment.
That's so weird though, because we'll obviously talk about it in more depth later in the movie. But like, we see Dragon Sound trying to pull on the beach, and particularly Joe, he didn't do that well. And so I'm kind of surprised you never see in the aftermath of any of the gigs, you don't see the house strewn with groupies or anything, because these guys,
Black Dynamite.
Yeah, 100%. Joe should be having a Black Dynamite in bed situation. Like, damn it, I already told the first bitch no.
That would be amazing, let's be honest.
But no, it's so weird that he is a god in this moment, and then when he goes out, if he's outside the Dragon Sound, slamming that guitar, that guy, like, he does come across very predatory on the beach, to be fair. But yeah.
I was going to say maybe he's like, he's a bit anxious, and on stage is where he comes alive. But no, he doesn't seem anxious on that beach later.
No, he seems like he's overconfident on that beach, unfortunately. Maybe it might be the Dragon Sound's giving him a big head. I don't know.
Yeah. He thinks, everybody knows me. I'm in Dragon Sound. It's like, no, the people who come to this club know you.
His head's just getting as big as that mullet. But
the only other thing I've got is just to see the minute out. We get one last shot of a smiling Jane as the minute ends. Oh, isn't that nice? She's having a great time with the boys, with her partner.
Yeah.
She doesn't know the bro's there.
Yeah, hope it lasts.
Nothing bad will happen.
So you didn't get any shots of a glaring Jeff in the crowd in this minute, unfortunately. But,
No. It was a very straightforward minute. And somehow we've ended up going the same amount of time as we always do.
Yeah, it's a game in here. It's like barely got any notes, but well,
Granted, I can probably cut out all the stuff about the Queen. There is, of course, one matter we need to address: the drinking game.
No, of course. Which,
as the last couple of episodes have proven, whenever they perform, we get a lot of drinks in, and that's happened again. So, I mean, Dragon Sound are playing. That's a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Shirtless dudes times 4. So do what you want there, 1 or 4. And there's fist pumps times 3.
Oh yeah, there's a major fist pump from Joe upon, because we play to win.
Yeah,
and it still seems weird, but like it's you're doing a fist pump on the word but play to win sounds too nice. Like,
no, we're playing to win.
It really feels like Dragon Sound are going to try to solve their problems with Jeff and Yoshido over like a game of Parcheesi. Like, it's.
I support this. That's the sequel.
Mm?
Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because it might spoil the ending of the movie if we go down that avenue.
Oh, okay. It'll be part of the prequel backstory within the novelization.
It turns out they're Parcheesi brothers.
It turns out that like the Miami Connection novelization, it's like the Godfather novel that Mario Puzo wrote, where half of it's actually like backstory to stuff that like, oh yeah, before any of the events of Miami Connection, here's like 200 pages on like on what Jim was up to before.
Yes, hell yeah. Oh, but that's everything I've got here anyway. Hang on, I haven't downed my last drink there. The fist pump one. Let's finish your drink. There we go. And I'm noted out.
Yep. Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
So once again, we will break that connection between us and you and Miami and wherever the hell they are here.
Orlando. It is Orlando, right? Yeah.
I don't know. It's America. It's all fucking same to me. I don't know. Do, as usual, speak to us on Facebook at Miami Minutes Taekwondo Orphanage. Look us up, Twitter, Instagram, all of that, you know. Why not go to the Sleepy Charlie Media TeePublic page and buy some merchandise? Get us on a t-shirt, get us on a mug, get us on, what else have they got now? Stickers, magnets, they've got all kinds of shit. Go look all that up and join us again in a week's time for unlucky minute 13. Oh no, what's going to happen next week now?
I'm trying to think of any tragedies that have befallen us and the 4 previous movies we've covered minute by minute on minute 13. But,
yeah, I shouldn't joke, because if something can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yes.
Tune in to find out.
Listen to me.